Good morning. Welcome to the January 15th of the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission. This meeting is broadcast and recorded, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphone. We'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Blackburn? Here. Commissioner Midas is excused. Commissioner Bradley? Here. Commissioner Kessler is excused. Commissioner Hearns?
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell? Here. Commissioner Randazzo?
Here.
Commissioner Tillman?
Here.
And Commissioner Kloss is also excused. That's 6 present.
Great. Next, we'll do the swearing in of the speakers. If you wish to speak on an item, please stand now and answer with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You may be seated. Thank you. We ask that all speakers limit their presentations to 5 minutes, and they write their name and address on the piece of paper up there by the microphone legibly. Any appeals of historic zoning decisions may be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. Do we have approval of last month's minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to staff reports for the city.
All right, so since the last meeting, our level 1 approvals were the installation of a roof over an existing patio area at the Kearns Bakery. In the Knollwood H overlay, there was a recladding of an existing monument sign with brick and a new plaque on it. And then in Old North Knoxville, we had the replacement of some cedar shakes in the gable fields.
All right, and then we'll move on to our certificate of appropriateness applications.
Right. This project involves the conversion of an existing carport to a garage and a rear addition. The carport will be enclosed with in-kind fiber cement lap siding and details in kind to the house. 2 composite garage doors will be installed on the northeast elevation, and 1 window will be installed on the southeast elevation. They are proposing to remove an existing non-historic addition on the rear elevation that will be replaced with a 20-foot wide addition with an 11-foot wide porch that is covered by a partial hipped roof, and it will feature fiber cement lap siding with an in-kind profile and will rest on a block foundation clad in brick veneer. The porch will feature tongue and groove wood flooring, a beadboard ceiling, 2 6-inch posts with trim, and a brick pier and lattice foundation in kind to the front porch. Modifications to window placement and sizing on the rear elevation are proposed, requiring the removal of non-historic windows and the installation of 1/1 windows in their place. 241 East Scott Avenue is a contributing resource. Repairs to the siding and front porch were administratively approved in July 2025. The existing carport was constructed in the early 2000s with Historic Zoning Commission approval. Enclosing the carport with in-kind fiber cement siding and trim details is appropriate, as is the placement of the garage doors and window. Final garage door and window specifications should be submitted to staff for review. The existing rear addition is not original to the structure and is in poor condition. Removal is appropriate. The existing door should be retained for reuse if salvageable. The size, placement, and general design of the new rear addition and porch align with the guideline recommendations, and it could be removed without adverse effects to the historic building. The porch details and in-kind materials to the house are appropriate, but final window and door specifications should be sent to staff for review. Fiber cement lap siding with an in-kind profile to the wood lap siding on the house is proposed for the addition, which will delineate that the addition is not historic. The existing windows on the rear elevation are not historic and have a regular placement and sizing, so removal is appropriate. The proposed new 1/1 windows are organized into bays, use sizes that reflect historic proportions, and align with the profiles of the other windows on the house. Final specification should be double hung, feature in-kind trim, and be sent to staff for review. With that, staff is recommending approval of Certificate 1D26HC, subject to the following conditions. Final garage door, secondary entrance, and window specifications be sent to staff for review, and the windows on the rear elevation to be double hung with in-kind trim.
Thank you, Melinda. And I failed to mention, this is 241 East Scott Avenue in Old North Knoxville, and I believe the applicant is present. Do you have anything to add, Sean?
2 things. One,
If you'll turn on that microphone, please.
thank you. Sean Boland, 115 East Scott Avenue. I'm not only representing Old North Knoxville in this meeting, but also this application. So the neighborhood unanimously supports this application as it is and the recommendations of staff, and I can answer any questions on behalf of the application and the applicant.
Any questions, discussions from the commission?
Sean, you don't have any issues with the two staff recommendations?
No, I do not.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions, I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Congratulations, Sean.
Thank you very much.
That concludes city business, and now we'll move to county historic zoning.
Do we not need to vote on what we're not going to do?
No, those two were postponed. They did not have a specific 30-day postponement date, and one requires variances, and the other one the other case is postponed at the request of the applicant. So y'all don't need to vote on those two. And you guys, the city is welcome to stick around and listen, and or.
Welcome to the January 15th, 2026 meeting of the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission. This meeting is broadcast and recorded, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones. Do I do the roll call?
Yes, Dallas will do the roll call.
Okay, we're there. We'll roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Maynard?
Here.
Commissioner Barker is excused. Commissioner Haston? Okay, I guess she is also excused. Commissioner Ewert?
Here.
Commissioner Eisenberg?
Here.
It's 3 present, ma'am.
We're swearing in speakers. Mr. Mullins, if you wish to speak on an item, please stand now and answer with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm to the testimony I am about to give that shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do. Thank you. We ask that all speakers please limit their presentation to 5 minutes. We also ask that speakers please give their name, address before speaking. Please sign in at the desk by legibly printing your name and address. There is an appeals process. Appeals of any HZC decisions may be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. I'd like to call for an approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Okay. Those meeting minutes have been approved. Let's move into staff reports, please.
Ma'am, can we take a vote on the?
Sorry, it wasn't in, okay, the approval of, let's take a vote, please, on the approval of the minutes. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Call for staff reports.
We do not have any level 1 COAs issued since the last meeting.
So let's go into our new business, please. Have a case overview by planning staff.
Okay. So the case on the agenda this morning is 1E26HC. This is the Moses Armstrong House at 6110 and 6114 Asheville Highway. So the proposed scope of work is the relocation of a primary structure. This includes the demolition of an existing non-historic garage, side and rear addition, and a proposed demolition of the front porch. The primary structure is proposed to be relocated approximately 500 feet to the southeast to a rear corner of the property adjacent to the Holston River. The estimate also includes the removal of the house from its foundation and the construction of a new foundation. The application also involves the revision to the historic zoning overlay, and the historic zoning overlay will be reduced to approximately 1.3 acres at the southern corner of the property. So I'm going to run through the comments to frame this up. We've structured the review of this in terms of talking about the historic zoning and the National Register designation, the process of moving the house itself, the site, and then the details of the house and the architecture. So I'll try to be brief. there's a lot here. So the application, this is just to talk about the historic zoning overlay and the National Register designation. The application will reduce the existing historic zoning boundary, which you can see outlined here, to surround the house and the immediate vicinity. The revised boundary is approximately 1.3 acres. Retaining this overlay will allow the Historic Zoning Commission to continue to review all work on the house, any associated outbuildings or site improvements, or any demolition. In this case, the Historic Zoning Commission makes a recommendation to the Planning Commission on reducing the historic zoning boundary. Formal rezoning to reduce this overlay prior to actually relocating the house would remove the house's protection. So if it were moved outside of that boundary, it may remove the house's protection if it were left here with no zoning overlay. So staff recommends that the final legislative approval of the rezoning should not occur prior to the house's actual relocation. In terms of the National Register is an honorary federal designation. It documents a site's history. It may qualify the property for federal grants or tax credits. And I'll run through where this is on the screen as well as I'm talking. We can come back to some of these images too. There are no requirements for the property owner for a property that's listed on the National Register. Local zoning is the most protective tool for a historic property, and that will be retained. The Tennessee Historical Commission staff did provide a letter from December 2025 noting that the house is currently eligible for the National Register under Criterion C for architecture, representing an evolved house within the Knoxville's architectural context. THC also notes that right now the additions and their construction date are pretty ambiguous. It makes it difficult to identify the best end for the property's period of significance. And they noted that for National Register eligibility, any additions more than 50 years old to communicate its significance as an evolved property would be included. They recommend that additional research on the building's additions would inform any rehab work. They also note that every effort to retain eligibility for the National Register, they would urge that every effort be made to reestablish the building's historic orientation, immediate setting, and general environment. Federal preservation guidance recommends that moving a house should be considered the last resort alternative to demolition. The application doesn't explore other alternatives to moving the house, and the house is proposed to be relocated to accommodate a new proposed convenience store. Constructing a convenience store approximately 60 feet away from the historic house would also have a detrimental effect on the house's setting, feeling, association, and could structurally impact the house. So relocating it is preferable to the house's demolition. Relocating the house within the same property will allow the house to reflect early Knoxville's history, construction techniques, and architectural styles. So some of the comments on the original site, the house is going to be moved within the original property, which is preferable to moving a house to a completely new site, which would sever that house from its context and historic association. The overall setting of the historic resource is already significantly compromised, and we can review that through some of the photos. The house is proposed to retain a similar orientation to the original. The original facade is facing north towards the road, and then the right side elevation is facing the river. The site plans do show that house rotated slightly, so all efforts should be taken to relocate the house in an orientation identical to the original. The house is proposed to be immediately adjacent to the 500-year flood zone. Knox County Code staff, and we do have staff here available today, have noted that the house would need to be placed at 839 feet or over to be outside of that floodplain. This is reflected on the site plan, but should be verified in the field. Some of the comments about moving. There is an appendix in the application, and I'll put it back on the screen to describe the relocation work. The application cites some experience with moving houses. Those are primarily several dating to the 20th century. There is additional information necessary regarding the actual relocation work, so we would ask that the contractor should provide a detailed plan indicating in which order and how the additions will be removed, information on how the materials will be secured, a plan to navigate the adjacent power lines, information on how the site will be graded and prepared, including any grading necessary for the route, details on supporting or removing and reconstructing that rear L and any other additions to be retained, and then specifics on shoring. We would also ask for additional information about the foundation. So the house has a significant limestone foundation. And this should be evaluated by a contractor or a structural engineer and provide details along with how the house will be separated from that foundation and supported during the process. In terms of the house and the architecture, the additions, a period of significance is generally identified for listing on the National Register and newer local overlays. Because this is an older report, the local overlay does not identify a specific period of significance. Further research could assist in identifying a period of significance associated with the house's early history. The application does propose to remove all the additions from the 20th century, including the rear, right side, front porch, and attached garage, and just to relocate that 1805 core with the L that's added in approximately 1840. So this is more of the restoration approach from the Secretary of the Interior standards. That restoration and relocation together typically would most likely remove National Register eligibility. It would also require any new elements to reflect those early 1800s materials and designs. So federal preservation principles say that changes that have acquired historic significance in their own right should be retained and preserved. The SHPO describes this house as evolved within Knoxville's context. So without a specific period of significance, they would say any of these additions that are older than 50 years old are contributing for purposes of the National Register. Now, within a local overlay, the Historic Zoning Commission has the purview to determine the best approach, whether that's restoration to the 1805 era or recognition of its evolution within a broader period. The Historic Zoning Commission can also determine which additions are contributing to the house. In the opinion of staff, the mid-20th century additions do not contribute to the house's architectural integrity. They date to the 1940s or 50s when the integrity of setting was already compromised by the construction of a drive-in theater. Also in the opinion of staff, a 1920 front porch is a character-defining feature of the house. However, this porch's materials may actually align with a later date of construction. More information on the house and history could assist in designating that as non-contributing. Removal of the additions will require new masonry infill, windows, and doors. And so we would ask that architectural drawings of all the proposed elevations be submitted with a new application to the HCC for approval prior to the house's relocation. This would also include information on the foundation and then floor plan drawings to document the current house and the multiple additions. So the staff recommendation here, and then we'll look at the photos as we discuss with the applicants. Staff recommends a preliminary approval of the proposed relocation and a preliminary approval of the reduced historic zoning overlay. Approval of the relocation is subject to the following conditions: that a moving plan be provided to staff for approval, retention or reconstruction of the front porch addition unless additional research is presented to the commission defining a later date of construction or a clear period of significance is identified. Current and proposed floor plans and architectural elevations of the house be completed, including the foundation. That should be submitted to the Historic Zoning Commission prior to relocation. And then a landscaping plan, site design, and additional repair scopes could be reviewed after. And then approval of the reduced historic zoning overlay is subject to the condition that final legislative approval of the rezoning should not be issued until the house is actually relocated. And I will run us through some photos here as we speak.
Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Okay.
Sorry, writing down my name. Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street. Here for the applicant. Appreciate we've had the opportunity to talk about this a little bit in the past. We had a workshop on this and a field trip out there to look at this. Appreciate the work that staff has done on it. We know there's a lot of work to be done on it. This is a little bit out of the ordinary to move a house like this, but I do think it presents an opportunity to take this home, keep it in its setting, essentially, actually moving it on the same property in the same original land grant, closer to the location of Ruggles Ferry, where Ruggles Ferry location is. And oriented the same way. I think we can if we need to adjust the rotation of that is fine. We've been working with staff on that to make sure that we're setting it in a way that's outside of the flood zone. I think we're approximately 10 feet above the base flood elevation out there where we propose to sit it. And then as part of this, I have to mention this, but the ongoing conversations we've had is that the buyer of the property and the seller of the property at closing are each going to contribute $50,000 each, $100,000 to a nonprofit that this property, the 1.3 acres, is going to be deeded to. So they would be in charge. It would no longer be in the hands of the original owner right now of the event center. It would be deeded to a nonprofit with some operational funds to continue the preservation and education efforts for the home. And we have local stakeholders that we've engaged in that process. We have several letters of them here that would be able to contribute to actually doing something with it other than, unfortunately, in its current situation, the owners have very little motivation to do anything with it and let it sit there, which is what has occurred over the last few years. At this point, they're motivated to do something with it, which is why we've proposed this plan. We don't want to see the house demolished. It does have significance. We will continue to work with staff to provide the additional information that they have asked for. We're looking further into the issue with the porch, whether that needs to be retained or not. If it needs to be retained, then we're happy to do that. I think some preliminary research indicates that based on the construction type with the steel beams actually being wrapped in wood, that puts the construction potentially closer to the other elements of the house that were built in the 20th century. We're looking to see if we can find any documentation, further documentation or photographs of that. But whether it is relocated with the porch or without it, I think relocation is the best way to preserve this in a manner where it still has the most historical protections, where anything that is done to the house in the future would have to come back through this board for review and approval. And also make it more open to the public than it is now. So I think all of those are net positives. Whether or not it retains its NRE eligibility, I know that once it is relocated, that's a very difficult task. We've tried to engage the Historic Commission, State Historic Commission on that point. And in fairness, they can't evaluate something like that until it is relocated. I think it would make some challenges to it, but I do know there's examples of historic properties that have been relocated, that have retained NRE eligibility and actually acquired National Registry in and of itself. So it's not impossible, but it is difficult. So I want to be completely upfront on that because that was a big point of the conversation now. I mean, it's not on the registry now, although it is eligible, and in the future, will work. I think the nonprofit would like to work to retain its eligibility, but even if that doesn't happen, it's still the best way to protect something that has historical significance for Knox County. So we're in agreement with staff's recommendations. I know there's a lot more work that we need to provide. It's kind of, we wanted to make sure we had this, preliminary approval to give us the confidence to kind of spend the additional resources that we will need to actually present more information about how the house is going to be moved. There's going to be quite a bit of fill dirt that's going to have to be brought into the property to create the path for it. Fortunately, we're only moving it 500 feet on the same property. We don't have to touch a main road. That makes the logistics of something like this a lot easier than it would be if we're trying to move it further or off-site. I've got Dan Brown here. He has submitted a letter. He's been engaged with the Historic Commission. He used to work for the Historic Commission for the state, and Dr. Warren Doctor. They've both helped kind of engage the stakeholders and kind of inform us as to what they think and what may be best for this home, and we'll be involved most likely in the future moving forward on this with what to do on the property once it is relocated. So happy to answer any questions, talk about this. I know this is not something you see every day, but we're excited for the opportunity to do something like this in a way that would preserve the house moving forward.
When do you expect your 501c3 to be organized and ready to go?
I've got a draft of that. Obviously, that would be something that once the house is relocated and we have the approvals, we would at that point, deed the property over and have to a 501c3. So, that's something that can be done at any time. I talked to staff; they wanted to see drafts of that, and they said, "Not that it's a little preliminary." We're premature at this point, but that is something that we're doing. I'm actually, this is a model. There's a house in Morristown that we've done something very similar on that requires, federal Army Corps approval, and we're doing something very similar, just creating a 501c3 and deeding. Actually, that we're not deeding the property; we're just doing a conservation easement. But that's I think a good way to put the house in the control of people who actually care for it, and that. I've got the drafts of the documents, and that can be done whenever it looks like this is actually going to go through.
Seems to me that that it should coincide, because that 501c3, at least from my perspective, is you're incorporating the two items, saying, hey, we want your permission to move it. We're going to have some, a 501c3 set up to maintain it. So I would like to see the preliminary
Sure.
outline of that, please.
And I understand what staff's recommendation is. We'll have to come back through this body one more time before we move the house.
Sure.
And with some more architectural and engineering details about the move and the foundation. And at that time, I'm happy to have the 501c3 documents prepared. It's actually 501c3 is like the third step in the process. The first step is a Tennessee nonprofit. Then you have to get that incorporated, and then you apply for 501c3 status through the federal government. So, that can't happen until the body is incorporated and they've met and there's bylaws and everything else, and then they can show that they can qualify for 501c3 status. But once they're a corporation, the property can be deeded to them as a Tennessee nonprofit, regardless of the federal tax status. That's probably more in the weeds than we want to get to at 8 o'clock in the morning on federal tax issues. But we can certainly have those documents prepared. I believe the owner would want that to probably be executed at the time of the closing of the property, with the buyer for the convenience store, and all that kind of happen at the same time.
Okay.
So it would be in place but not executed.
Absolutely. So a prelim can be provided.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Ben, couple questions. I guess since our first staff meeting, I've asked for information and still don't have all of it. And I understand why you're trying to get some preliminary approval on this. My question is, when is all this information going to be sent back to us?
The eligibility for the National Registry, we've tried to get that, and the state has said, look, we're not going to evaluate something kind of hypothetically. Once it is relocated in its orientation, we can look at it then and then see whether or not it would be eligible. I've been frank. I think in our conversations with them,
according to what they said, it's not.
It's.
In their letter, it clearly states that. But my question is, again, in our first meeting, we asked for some detailed plans. We've asked for some, just ideas of stuff, and we don't have anything. So my question directly is, if I make a motion of this thing and say, in 90 days, you need to come back, are you going to be ready?
I don't know if we can do it within 90 days. I think
So when is that date?
I think it would have to occur before we would
Because
get
in that meeting we were
at.
in our workshop, the owner was like, I need to start tomorrow. So, I want to know what time, if time is truly of the essence, we're trying to get this, what is your all's time frame?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to tell you something I don't know. I don't know exactly. I know in order for the owners to feel comfortable in moving forward and getting the additional information that staff has asked for, they want to know that, if we provide that information and that information is approved, but they haven't been able to get that yet. We have a quote from the contractor. The contractor is going to have to provide more information. The quote does include, the foundation. We are actually working with a local engineer who may be able to help with some of that information as well, but we don't have that yet. We're just at this stage. wanting enough of confidence that we can move forward to get that information, because that's going to cost some more money.
No, I understand that. The whole thing is going to cost a lot of money. And I appreciate your all's efforts to do this. I'm just trying to, again, this is our third meeting. We've done this, and there's no time frame other than I need this tomorrow, right? It needs to be some reciprocal value here for us. I don't have a problem moving forward with this. The only way I will do this is if there's a time frame that you're coming back to us in this body for us to make a decision final.
I understand, and I guess if you're wanting a time certain, we present new information to you regarding to staff's, I would ask for at least 120 days, because that, I don't know, and the potential to ask, if we're moving towards that, it's, the more you get into a project like this, the more you realize how difficult it is. And so that's the reason why we do want to make sure we're doing it right. And I think staff has set it up in a way that, those safeguards are in place, as we move forward for something like this.
Yeah, I don't know if Sam is going to talk.
Well, this is a difficult home. This is extremely historic home. And trying to cover all the bases on the situation. So, just want to make sure if it's moved, it's not going to crack all to pieces. And also the foundation that it goes on, is it going to have a basement, and is it high enough in case this river floods that it does not flood? That's one of my main concerns of the situation. But I think, I agree with you. We do need to move it from that location, and those side units are not part of the house whatsoever.
I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation, all of them, 1, 2, A, B, C, D, and the final approval of the reduced HZ overlay. But I'd like to add also, I guess, number 3 is that they resubmit within 120 days of this meeting to staff for review.
Just clarify, Commissioner Ewert, that you meant the application pieces also be submitted to the Historic Zoning Commission?
Everything, yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
everything.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Will that be enough time?
If it's not, I will come back and ask for more and give you a time frame on that. We'll continue communications with this.
Because I know they don't move fast at all.
They don't. That's why 120 days will give us enough time to know whether we need more time. And if we have to need more time, we'll come back and ask. But I think the important part is that we are all moving forward with a goal in mind and very clear standards to meet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. What's your vote, Sam?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
So that motion is passed. I don't have,
In 120 days?
see you in 120 days.
Yeah.
Thank you. Make a motion to
Oh,
adjourn.
we have one more piece
Oh.
of business for
My
the
apologies.
election.
Oh, that's right.
And I can guide us through that
Thank
if
you.
that's
Since,
helpful.
I don't-
So we will hear the election of the chair and vice chair of the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission for 2026. And so I will open the floor for nominations for the chair position.
I nominate Kim.
Right?
Second.
Okay. So we have a nomination and a second. I think we can take that as a motion and a second. Can I
Yes.
hear all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then a nomination for the vice chair of the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission for 2026.
I nominate Sam.
I nominate you.
I nominate George.
I nominate George also.
Okay. So we've got two nominations. Okay. Okay. And so hearing Commissioner Ewert as vice chair for the 2026 year. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right.
The aye.
I mean, how
Least
many
till
years do I
March.
got to be chair of something on this commission?
Oh, but you're not the chair. You're just, you're the backup.
All right. And now you can adjourn.
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
So move.
Okay. Thank you. See you in 120 days. Oh, I apologize. We'll see you next month.
You will see.
I
You
will
will meet
see,
next month.
I will meet next month. Okay? Y'all can come on if you want to.